Theatre Company. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight at
Senate House.
And my name is Alex Donnachie.
And I'm Danny Millar.
And we represent Armada Theatre Company, as we say. So we are the co-founders of the theatre company, along with our friend Mikey Armstrong, who was mentioned. We're not sure where he's gone. He was here early, went to the loo, and we think maybe, hasn't sort of lost track of time. But so you're with us for now, but hopefully he'll join us later. So who are we? We are actors, we're writers, we're facilitators, we're theatre makers, and we all have over 15 years of experience in the industry and kind of various parts of it. I am an award-winning writer, performer, facilitator, and my work's been shown on stage, on radio, and theatres up and down the UK. And then next we have Danny, who has appeared in TV, film, and in all of the major theatres up and down the UK. And he's also a translator of classical German and French dramas, and he once appeared in a Greek tragedy covered in treacle.
True story.
Yes. And Mikey he's worked extensively on stage and across TV, and he also works as a workshop leader and facilitator, and has done that with huge international companies. But most importantly, he is soon to be the face of the new Tempo Tissues commercial. So, as you've heard tonight from lecturers, professors of classical civilization, university lecturers on Greek and Roman culture already this evening, you can clearly trust that they have saved the most overqualified people at the end.
So last year, why are we here? Why we're here is what I'm asking. Last year we received some Arts Council funding and a very, very kind, generous donation from the Hellenic Society to do some research and development on a play that we'd written, that we devised ourselves. The show is called The Hellenic Games, and it's an immersive family show, essentially for children. What it does, it explores the so-called values of the modern-day Olympic and Paralympic Games, but through the lens of the ancient Greek characters that our target audience learns about in school. We'll come back to that later, but first I should just ask, does anybody here know what immersive theatre is? Does anyone give us a quick soundbite? Yes, over there.
Oh, well, sorry, my daughter used to work for Punch Drunk, so it's when you go and walk amongst it.
You go and walk, but what's your name again, sorry? Leslie, that's absolutely. Punch Drunk are a perfect example, Leslie, thank you very much. Yeah, it's essentially when the audience are part of the action. You can see these things here, they're not static. What happens is that they move around the playing space, they're encouraged to interact with the characters, and in a lot of aspects, particularly with Punch Drunk, they're cast as the protagonist. So the brave adventurer who has to save the world, or in our case, the brave traveller who has to save Mount Olympus before time runs out. It invites the audience to become an integral part of the action rather than being witnesses to the action. And Leslie, you might recognise a couple of shows here. Punch Drunk being a very, very famous example, but they are all over the place, these shows.
Yeah. Now that isn't to say that the more standard dramatic conventions aren't part and parcel of immersive theatre still, because they absolutely are. So your setting, your costume, your time period, very, very good stage management are all completely essential. And the great staple of ancient theatre, the chorus, is actually a huge part of our show as well. Audience interaction is obviously a huge part of immersive theatre, and something that we have already employed in this introduction, thanks to Leslie getting involved. And sometimes the obscure theatrical conventions are used too. So there's things such as Chekhov's rifle. Does anybody know? Has anybody even heard of Chekhov's rifle? Yes? Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit what you think it might be?
Yes, if you're going to shoot it in Act 3, you have to have it hanging on a wall in Act 1.
Yes, absolutely. Similarly, if it's not there in Act 1, you don't want it there. You want to make sure that, if it is there in Act 1, you want to make sure that the right thing happens.
Can we just say it's almost verbatim?
Yeah, so if the first act you've hung a rifle on the wall, the following one it should be fired. Otherwise, don't put it there. So, obviously it's a narrative principle whereby it introduces the idea to the story and that it must be relevant to whatever happens afterwards and next in the story. So it introduces the predicament for the audience that the characters absolutely should not use an item, but also if they don't use the item, the story won't be able to happen.
But it doesn't have to be a gun, it can be anything.
Sure, absolutely, mundane items too.
So don't have a chair that you're not going to sit on.
Not a cigarette that you're not going to light.
A mysterious looking box that isn't going to be opened, that kind of thing.
mention Timbuktu?
Yep.
Right. So, why did we decide to create a show for children about the ancient Olympic Games? Well, the three of us met whilst working on a show at Battersea Arts Centre in London a few years ago, and we found that we shared a deep passion for both immersive theatre as well as theatre for young people. So much so, in fact, that we were inspired to sit down together and create our own show. We decided to create an adventure using fairy tales and ancient myths as our starting point, and as 2020 Summer Olympics wasn't far off, those ideas evolved into what the show is today, an adventure about ancient Olympic Games and its relation to the modern counterpart. In truth, family theatre and even children's theatre, well, they're slightly misleading. These shows are more often than not just as fun and enjoyable for a 16-year-old as they are for a 6-year-old. But we worked out that our target audience for the Hellenic Games are pupils who are currently in Key Stage 2, so around 7 to 12 years of age, give or take.
Yeah, and that's because classical history has been part of the English national curriculum for decades, and it's become more and more prevalent as the years have progressed. The majority of the current iteration of the national curriculum dates from 2014, meaning that children within our target age range have had at least some introductory education into classical history. However, the vast majority of Key Stage 2 students in this country don't learn about the history of ancient Greece, but rather the mythology. According to the most recent survey of UK schools, just over 81% of English primary schools elect to teach the history of ancient Egypt, and that's over any other pre-Norman invasion history, likely because the events and the people involved in that, they're more sort of tangible figures in relation to British history.
That being said, this same survey reported that the majority of primary schools are very well resourced when it comes to ancient Greek materials, in some cases as well resourced as the more intrinsic history such as the Tudors or the Victorians, and that Key Stage 2 students demonstrate a great deal of interest and focus when learning about ancient Greece, mainly as part of what is called optional depth study. Essentially, it's part of the curriculum that isn't mandatory, but it's taught nonetheless because of its popularity among the students. Here, rather than learn as a compulsory part of the curriculum, the children are encouraged to explore through art, storytelling, reading and play the mythology that shapes our vision of ancient Greece. As such, children in English primary schools are given such an interactive and captivating education into this that you'd be hard pushed to find any 8-year-old who can't tell you about Medusa, or Helen of Troy, or Hermes, or Apollo, or you stay away from that. It's your bit.
In theory, every student in the state-maintained sector will have studied something about the ancient Greeks. Having survived several versions of the national curriculum, the position of ancient Greeks, such as they are, now seems secure in the primary sector. And that's true. If you've ever been to the British Museum on a weekday, you've no doubt had to move out of the way for a gaggle of high-vis jacketed school children gawping at a vase or painting a picture of Hercules. Depends where you're from. Now, what this article then goes on to say is that despite ancient history being part of the curriculum and Greek mythology being very popular amongst Key Stage 2 children, aside from the online assets like the Historical Association and BBC Bitesize, there aren't actually that many resources to help support teachers.
Which is where we come in. By being an immersive piece, the Hellenic Games doesn't just teach our audience about ancient Greek figures, it lets them meet these figures. The show starts with the audience being led into a space and sat down facing a stage, as per any piece of theatre, ostensibly to watch a show. Our performers, as a chorus, take on the role of a hapless Amdram society, and we really tap into the silliness, the clownish characteristics here.
Yeah, they're super, super childish.
Always arguing and bickering.
Arguing and bickering are the same thing.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No,
Arguing
they're
is
not.
when
No.
you...
This
right.
chorus
Right.
present a show about ancient Greek athletes, one of whom, incidentally, is Kiniska. So thanks, we'll take credit for that inspiration there, Tom. You can thank us later, no worries, no worries. The chorus are happily performing away for their audience when suddenly something catastrophic happens. The audience are given a quest and whisked away on an adventure which they are the central character, helping the people they meet along the way. The actors who were playing the chorus then double up as the characters the audience would recognise, such as Nike, Athena, the Muses, Hades, Zeus.
Zeus is coming.
Here.
Is it?
Well, I don't know, you just said this.
Did I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you should have made an effort then, shouldn't you? So, we truly believe that this form of theatre has a very positive impact on young people when they're part of a story. They are given agency to dictate the outcome of the story, and crucially, they have the right to fail, Danny.
What?
It's your bit.
Oh. So one final point about immersive theatre is to say that it isn't actually that far detached from the much-loved Athenian comedies of antiquity. In fact, the three of us see it as an extension, maybe even explosion of the core Aristophatic principles of theatre. The historian Peter Walcott once wrote, "If it is the English stage which must provide us with our illustration, the most evocative comparison is one between the audience packed into the theatre of Dionysus and the audience which jostles its way into the seats at the Christmas pantomime. For this is an audience mainly composed of children as uninhibited and as determined to squeeze out every ounce of pleasure as those who witnessed the original performance of old comedy." Truly believe that if Aristophanes was around today, get away from the box.
Just a little peek.
No.
Please, I really want to see what's inside.
I know, so do I.
Oh, it could be something really exciting.
Yes, like gold.
Yeah, or diamond.
Or chocolate.
Chocolate. You want chocolate, Danny? Chocolate.
Giving it up for Len. Alex?
Yes.
It's your bit.
And so to our final point. How do you build a show about the Olympic Games that has educational benefits and instills confidence and agency, but is also fun and innovative and engaging for adults and children alike? Well, we started by marrying the ancient with the modern. In the prologue of our show, kids will have learned that the sports and athletics they see on the telly every few years actually have their roots in ancient Greece, namely as part of the Hellenic Games, the locations of which can be seen here. During this period, time was measured in Olympiads. An Olympiad was a period of 4 years, and the first year in every Olympiad was marked by, of course, the Olympic Games, held in honour of Zeus.
2 years after the Olympic Games, on year 3 of the Olympiad, was the Pythian Games, held in honour of Apollo, which were also held every 4 years.
Either side of those were the Isthmian Games and the Nemean Games, which both occurred on the same with a frequency of 2 years. They were held respectively in honour of Poseidon and Hercules. Heracles. So, in short, an Olympiad was 4 years. On year 1, it was the Olympic Games honouring Zeus. On year 2, it was the Nemean Games and the Isthmian Games honouring Poseidon and Hercules. Heracles. On year 3, it was the Pythian Games honouring Apollo, and then it was year 4, the Nemean Games and Isthmian Games again. Back to year 1. Boom. Thank you very much.
You just click the next slide. It's just there.
So once our audience are guided away on their adventure, they are given the task of finding something crucial to the outcome of the experience, namely the values of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Now the values, they constitute the foundation on which the Olympic movement was built, and they use it to promote sports, culture, education, with a view of building a better world as per the Olympic Charter, and they are at the very heart of our show. The values of the Olympic Games are excellence, respect and friendship, and the Paralympic values are courage, determination, inspiration and equality. You don't need to remember these though, don't worry.
Our primary goal is always to entertain our audiences, and as we've mentioned, the Hellenic Games gives them agency to direct the course of the narrative. We want our audience to leave the performance space feeling empowered, exhilarated and educated without the action being didactic. We use the Olympics as a theatrical framework to engage young people into the values behind the Olympic sport. The result is that the children will take away with them a connection with one or more of the Olympic and Paralympic values.
Yeah. So in reflecting on the Olympic and Paralympic values, we've always been fascinated by the social impact of a show with integrated accessibility. Integrated accessibility is basically when the access requirements of every potential audience member have been built into the show, meaning that anybody of any ability could come to any show during a run and not have their experience hindered. They would experience the same show as every other audience member. Because we take our integrated accessibility so seriously, we ensured that we collaborated throughout the R&D with people best placed to help us with that. We worked with excellent theatre company, who are a theatre company specialising in working with blind and visually impaired performers, and our BSL interpreter Laura did the signing for the performance at the end of the R&D. And we were also incredibly fortunate to work with Deanna Di Coates. Now, Di is a wheelchair user and also an 8-time Paralympian medal winner. She's got 8 of those, but 3 of them are gold. Di attended rehearsals with us and shared the details of both her sporting prowess, but also helped us understand just some of the obstacles that people in wheelchairs might might face if they're part of our immersive theatre experience. So each of the people in the organisations we worked with us as access consultants across the R&D, and thankfully they've all showed a keenness to carry on working with us at further stages.
Yeah, exactly. So we're really proud of the shape our show has taken, and now we're looking towards the next steps. So for a show this size, we're hoping to find funding bodies and creative partners who will understand and support our vision, rather than being fearful of the scale. It's notoriously difficult to find scratch opportunities for immersive theatre, let alone children's theatre. But with the next steps of our show, we will partner with more high-profile athletes and Olympians like Di, and access services, including those working with the hard of hearing, deaf and visually impaired communities.
I'll find the last page.
Just that, yeah.
Is it in your pocket?
See if I've got it on there.
Down.
Sorry.
You left it in your bag?
Right.
No, why not? I don't pockets, I'm really bad. Have you checked
Checked under there.
Is it yours?
You're not leaving it.
No.
I'll check
Sorry?
it here.
No, don't know!
Who has dared open the sacred box of Pandora? I am Zeus Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, ruler of all things, generally an all-round pretty nice guy. You have opened the forbidden box which contains all of life's evils and released them into the world. Because of your detestable conduct, the world will become a stale, moldy husk. The strong will become weak, your friends will become enemies, and there will be no Wi-Fi anywhere. I will uphold this punishment until the end of time, or until Tottenham win the Premier League, whichever comes first. You have released wrongs and evils out of the box, and this action must be undone.
But how?
You must go on a journey of discovery to unearth the values of the Olympic and Paralympic
The
Games.
values of
Remember.
what were the values?
You have until the sands of time run out. If you fail, evil will engulf the world. Starting here, in room G22/26 of Senate House.
Senate House.
Senate House.
This wouldn't have happened if you didn't open the bloody box.
Me? He was him that lost his paper.
It was you who lost your paper.
Guys, no more arguing or bickering or whatever it is. You know what Zeus said? Do you want to live in a world of despair and gloom and terror and fear and sorrow and sore little toes, or do you want to save Olympia?
We'll save Olympia, obviously.
Yeah, but how?
Should we just play the trailer and then have a think and let these guys ask some questions?
Good idea, good idea.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Hello, I'm Mikey.
Hi, I'm Danny, and
This is the Hellenic Games.
Welcome to the Hellenic Games!
It's going to be a large-scale immersive family show with integrated accessibility that explores the values of the Olympic and Paralympic Games.
I went on an adventure.
What do you reckon? Shall we give it a go, guys?
Yeah!
And it's going to be insane.
It was really fun.
You guys want to help us?
When we got like split into groups, we got to like put different clothings onto the fabric that was hanging up on people. I had to go and do all of these little challenges. It's all been over. Some of them were a little bit crazy.
How dare you?
Heidi, you met Heidi?
We've gone to different places.
We can't think on an empty stomach, can we? I've made you some elaborate.
As you can see, the place is a bit of a state at the moment. We're going under a few repairs.
I almost forgot olives.
We have guests.
Okay.
Hello everyone, we're the Muses, and we are the toga makers to the gods.
You can't have a feast without olives.
And we went in the room when someone opened the box.
And I need you to put that book together immediately.
I was looking for Olympic values. Zeus got mad.
Who has dared open the sacred box of Pandora?
I really loved it.
Everything she just said, I said. I know, I'm so clever.
Excellent and inspiring.
You have until the sands of time run out. If you fail, evil will engulf the world.